that he is an activist, he is the founder member of Group Nationalist Youth Party. So I request him to kindly come and...
The Honorable Chair, distinguished personalities, democracy champions, human rights defenders, and ladies and gentlemen, I belong from Eastern Bhutan, officially called Starchops, non-speaking Nepali communities. Today I will talk about Mahayana Buddhism, which is contained two sects of Mahayana Buddhism in Bhutan, and one sect is getting discrimination from the Bhutan government. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Basically, I have nothing much to share with you at this juncture. However, having elaborated by my team leader, Dr. Bambaji, I would humbly take this short moment to simply tell about the issue concerning Nyingma teachings and the relevant issues of the quick reference. As already mentioned in the flyers distributed in this symposium, the Sharchops, who were the inhabitants of the eastern part of the country, who are predominantly the followers of the Nyingma tradition of Mahayana Buddhism too, have been victimized by the regime on several periods of our existence. The first saint responsible for the emergence of Nyingma teaching dates back to the visit of Guru Padmasambhava in the early 7th century AD. The Nyingma practitioners enjoyed bliss of the teachings of Buddhism under the dual umbrella of one sect called Karju and one called Nyingma. Though the government took politically elusive steps increasing its control over the monastic system, while the Karju establishments are patronized by the government and Nyingma institutes is different parts of Eastern Bhutan function under the supervision of the eminent priests under their own initiatives. During the period of 80s and 90s, the regime began to plant differences in the ideas and faiths. In the year 1989, Hosamba agitation for civil rights was followed by the 1991's interference of regime into the affairs of Nyingma faith in the eastern community of Bhutan. The religious institutions, especially those from eastern Bhutan, today continue facing silent suffering for state separation. The elected government, even today, promotes only the state-sponsored Buddhism sects, and like the Nyingma continue to be silent suffer. The transformation of the Buddhist teaching in the country deprived the rights of Nyingma centers after 1991 by not only scrapping the centers but also disallowing Nyingma masters to teaching their traditional faiths, thereby depriving people right to their choice to believe. The regime enraged in the east was no less than the atrocities unleashed in the south regions enraged in the east was no less than the atrocities unleashed in the south during early 90s. In both cases, relatives of the victims were deprived of their rights to equal opportunities under restriction to mandate NOC or clearance from the security forces. In 1982, the government of Bhutan invited Dorukchen Rinpoche as the supreme authority of the Nyingma institutes in Bhutan, who was exiled by the fourth king in the early 90s. In the context of the vested interest of the elite monks in the state-sponsored institute of Kajupa, Nyingma followers are victimized and was mainly as 16 teaching centers were closed down overnight with students having sent back to their respective homes. The popularity gained by the institute had become an eyesight of some prominent elite group, whereby the fire of misfortune sparked in the hearts of the every Nyingma followers. The deprived Nyingma followers covered into pro-democracy forces and organized a peaceful demonstration in support of human rights and democracy in 1997, with the view to restore their rights to practicing their faith. However, the government, using armed repression, pounced upon the people with brutality. A monk was killed, as already told by my team leader, shooting at the point blank by the district chief, who went unpunished. The chief abbot was imprisoned for 8 years, while as many as 131 people were arrested and sentenced to prison terms ranging from 3 months to life for merely voicing for the rights to freedom of practicing their choice of religion. Sorts of other followers escaped the very vicious grips of the regime's armed forces and joined the refugee camps in Nepal. My appeal to this August gathering is to understand our situation with magnanimous consideration and help us restore democracy and human rights, which is the global trends, and Bhutanese people are not any exceptions. So, without inclusive democracy and human rights in our country, we can't end up the discrimination like social discrimination and religious discrimination in our country. To establish the inclusive democracy and human rights in our country, we need the international community's help, especially the India as our nearest neighbor. So our expectation for helping hand from the Indian communities are still strong and alive and eager. So at the same time, HIDA of India is come up with looking carefully into our crisis, so which we are hoping they will continue to look into our crisis. So thank you very much and touch that.